On the morning of March 24, 2015, an Airbus A320 sat quietly on the tarmac in Barcelona, preparing for what should have been an ordinary flight to Düsseldorf. Passengers boarded with Provichnik calm, families returning home, students chatting softly, business travelers checking their phones, none of them aware they were about to become part of one of the most disturbing aviation tragedies in modern history. Germanwings Flight 9525 took off smoothly, climbing into the clear European sky. Inside the cockpit, Captain Patrick Sondenheimer and First Officer Andreas Lubitz carried out routine procedures. Everything appeared normal. The aircraft leveled off at cruising altitude, and for a brief moment the flight blended into the thousands of others crossing Europe that day. Then something changed. The captain left the cockpit, likely for a routine break. The cockpit door closed behind him with a quiet mechanical certainty. Inside, Andreas Lubitz was alone. Moments later, the aircraft began to descend. At first, the descent was subtle, almost unnoticeable to those in the cabin. But inside the cockpit, the descent was deliberate. Lubitz had adjusted the autopilot, setting the aircraft on a path that would take it down and down and down. Outside the cockpit, the captain returned. He knocked. There was no response. He tried again, more urgently this time. Still nothing. The knocking turned into pounding. His voice, calm at first, began to rise with urgency as he demanded access. The reinforced cockpit door, designed after the tragedies of September 11th to keep threats out, was now keeping him out. Inside, Lubitz remained silent. Air traffic control noticed the descent and attempted to make contact. No reply. The aircraft continued losing altitude, now clearly deviating from its assigned flight path. Alarms would have been sounding in the cockpit, warnings echoing through the confined space, but no corrective action was taken. In the cabin, confusion turned into fear. Passengers sensed the descent, the unnatural angle, the increasing speed. Oxygen masks had not deployed. There was no announcement, just the growing realization that something was terribly wrong. Outside the cockpit, the captain made a desperate attempt to break in. The sound of heavy impacts echoed through the door as he tried to force his way back into control. His efforts were frantic, relentless, but futile. Inside, Lubitz's breathing could later be heard on the cockpit voice recorder. Calm, steady, unchanging. The aircraft descended toward the French Alps. As the mountains rose into view, the reality of the situation became unavoidable. The aircraft was not going to recover. In the final moments, the sounds inside the cabin turned to screams. At 10:41 a.m., Germanwings Flight 9525 slammed into the mountainside at high speed, disintegrating instantly. All 150 people on board were killed. The investigation that followed uncovered a chilling truth. There was no mechanical failure, no structural issue. The aircraft had been fully functional. The cause was human. Andreas Lubitz had deliberately locked the captain out of the cockpit and initiated the descent. Investigators revealed a history of psychological issues, including severe depression and suicidal tendencies. Information that had not fully reached the airline. The cockpit voice recorder told a story that stunned the world, a silent decision carried out with terrifying precision, while those outside the cockpit fought desperately to regain control. In the aftermath, aviation authorities around the world re-examined cockpit access rules and pilot mental health monitoring. New regulations were introduced, including requirements for at least 2 authorized personnel to be present in the cockpit at all times. But for the 150 lives lost that morning, those changes came too late. Germanwings. Flight 9525 remains a haunting reminder that sometimes the greatest threat to an aircraft doesn't come from mechanical failure or weather, but from within the cockpit itself. And in those final 10 minutes high above the French Alps, there was nothing anyone could do to stop it.